I'll never forget the exact second his laughter stopped that night. One moment, the room was alive, everyone laughing, candles flickering, glasses clinking together, and then the air shifted. It was his 35th birthday. I thought I was being clever when I leaned forward, grinning, and said, "Careful, ladies. He flirts like this even when I'm not around." It was meant to be light-hearted, just a teasing comment to keep the fun going. But the moment the words left my mouth, something in his expression changed. First confusion, then something colder, a flicker that settled behind his eyes. The room didn't fall silent, but the laughter suddenly felt far away, like it had moved to another place I couldn't reach. Ethan smiled, but it wasn't the smile I knew. It was small, strained, polite. The kind you use to hold yourself together. He lifted his glass, thanked everyone for coming, and when his gaze met mine again, all the warmth was gone. We drove home without a word. The city lights washed across his face, carving shadows where his joy used to be. I tried to fill the silence, mentioned Ben's ridiculous toast, how good the tiramisu was, but he only nodded, eyes on the road, mouth drawn tight. When we got home, he carried the leftover cake inside, set it on the counter, and said quietly, "You embarrassed me." Just that. No anger, no raised voice. I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. "Ethan, it was a joke." He didn't look at me. "You turned me into a punchline." Something in his tone froze me. I'd never heard him sound that distant. He went to the bedroom, changed, and got into bed facing the wall. I lay there staring into the dark, thinking it would pass by morning. It didn't. The next day, he kissed me on the forehead before work, not gently, just out of habit. And that quiet gap between us never closed. He still spoke with kindness, still helped with chores, still smiled for the neighbors. But the small gestures, his hand finding mine on the couch, the quick kisses in the kitchen, the easy laughter, were gone. At first, I told myself he just needed time. Maybe the joke had cut deeper than I'd realized. But as days stretched into weeks, the silence grew heavier. Whenever I tried to bridge it, a touch, a soft word, a "I miss you," he would just nod and drift away. I started studying him, searching for signs. The way he folded his clothes, the careful tone in his voice, how he no longer left his phone out in the open. I wondered if there was someone else. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about another person. It was about that night. That one careless joke that changed how he saw me. He began staying out later, spending more time at the gym, taking longer drives after work. I'd hear the shower running when he got home, the sound filling the silence we no longer knew how to break. In bed, the distance between us felt immeasurable. One night, I whispered, "Ethan, I didn't mean it like that." He turned to me, eyes tired, voice low. "It's not the joke," he said. "It's what it showed me." Those words lodged in my chest. What had it shown him? That I could make fun of him in front of others? That I could turn his love into entertainment? I wanted to explain. It was just nerves, too much wine, a stupid attempt at humor, but nothing could undo what he'd seen in that moment. A month passed before I realized he hadn't touched me once. Not a hug, not a brush of the hand, nothing. The house still looked the same, but it no longer felt like home. Then, one evening while he sat reading on the couch, I asked quietly, "Do you still love me?" He looked up, met my eyes for a long time, and said, "Love doesn't disappear." He paused. "But respect, that's harder to get back." That was when I finally cried, really cried, for the first time in weeks. He didn't reach for me, not to hold or comfort, just handed me a box of tissues. And in that moment, something fragile inside me broke. Not with noise, but softly, like glass cracking under carpet, only noticeable once it's too late. After that, I tried pretending, cooking his favorite meals, making small talk, acting as though nothing had changed. But he had stopped pretending long ago. The anger was gone. What was left was indifference. He still did everything right, took out the trash, paid the bills, reminded me to bring an umbrella. But he did it like someone fulfilling a contract, not sharing a life. Every smile was practiced, every conversation hollow. And the silence that followed wasn't awkward anymore. It was the sound of something that had already ended. He would thank me softly, eat without a word, and quietly rinse his plate when he was done. One evening, I reached across the table and placed my hand over his, hoping he'd look at me the way he once did, with warmth, curiosity, love. But instead, he gently pulled away and went on eating. That small, tender rejection hurt more than any argument ever could. It wasn't cruel, it was resignation. A silent acknowledgement that something precious between us had already slipped away. One Saturday morning, I found him in the living room, folding clothes into a duffel bag. My heart seized. "Are you leaving?" I managed to ask, my voice barely holding together. He zipped the bag closed, turned to me, and said quietly, "I'm going to stay with my brother for a while. We both need space." I wanted to beg him not to go, to promise I could make things right, but the words stuck in my throat. I just stood there, gripping the couch for balance. Before he left, he looked at me and said, "You made a joke." And that's when I realized, to you, I'm someone to laugh at. To me, you were home. I can't unsee that. The door clicked shut, soft but devastating, the sound echoing through the walls long after he was gone. Days turned into weeks. His things still lingered, the chipped mug on the counter, his cologne untouched on the dresser. I'd sit on the bed holding his old sweatshirt, breathing in the faint trace of cedar and soap, wondering how one careless moment could reroute an entire life. I replayed that birthday dinner over and over, the laughter, the flicker of hurt in his eyes, the way I'd chosen attention over tenderness. It wasn't the joke itself that broke us. It was what it revealed, how easily I'd let thoughtlessness creep into love. When he returned 3 months later, it wasn't to stay. He came to pack up what was left. He was calm, polite, almost too gentle. We spoke like people who once shared something sacred but couldn't quite remember what it felt like. As he lifted the last box, I asked, "So this is it?" He paused, met my eyes, and said, "I don't hate you. But I can't love you the same way anymore. The part of me that reached for you disappeared when you turned me into the punchline." His voice carried no anger, just honesty, and somehow that hurt the most. After he left for good, the apartment felt unbearably still. That's when I learned what silence truly is. It's not empty. It's full of everything that never got said. Months have passed. I've started writing again, trying to piece together the parts of myself I lost in us. Sometimes I walk past the restaurant where it all began, the one with the red awning and candlelit windows. I still hear laughter drifting out, but it doesn't cut as deep now. Love, I've learned, doesn't always end in betrayal or drama. Sometimes it fades quietly, in the instant one person no longer feels safe being themselves. If I could go back to that night, to that one thoughtless moment, I wouldn't just swallow the joke. I'd reach for his hand, look into his eyes, and show him that no applause from strangers could ever replace the warmth of being his. But time doesn't offer second chances, it only brings understanding. Mine arrived in the shape of an empty bed, a quiet phone, and the knowledge that once respect is broken, love alone can't mend it. Now, when I catch my reflection in the window, I still half expect to see him behind me, smiling like he used to. But it's only me, the woman who finally learned that words, once spoken, can leave marks deeper than any touch ever could.